Before you book and plan your holiday to Lake Garda, you have to watch this video. I'm Fredrik and I've been to Lake Garda 15 times at least, and I will show you in this video all my tips and tricks. I will also recommend you to watch my other content because we've covered so much that there is to know about Lake Garda. In this two-part guide before our summer holiday, I will go through everything you need to know as to how to get to the lake in the best possible way, where to stay obviously, and which village to choose, as well as all the tips and tricks of things you need to know before planning your holiday, so you can make sure and see if Lake Garda is for you or not. Welcome everyone, so this is the first part of a two-part guide series before our holiday break. But however, I can just tell you there won't be a holiday break like last year, where there will be no posting of content throughout the summer. Instead, we will continue posting videos once a week. We will make small guides to the cities that we explored so far on this channel, like London, Paris, Berlin. You will have it all in short, sweet guides so you can get your fantasies up on planning your next holiday. Well, hello, if you're new to the channel, my name is Fredrik, this is Ponyo and Pool Shark, and I am a huge Garda enthusiast. I've been to the lake over 15 times, the first time when I was, I think, 11 years old, and then I've kept coming back through my entire life, stayed in all the different villages, and the thing is, I keep coming back every year, even though I try not to. So basically, when the planning for holiday comes in I would say December, January, we always say, well, let's not go to Garda this year. And then most of the time we end up going there anyway because we long for it so much. However, is Lake Garda really for you? That's what we're going to try and see in this video. And even if you are sure that it is for you, you might need these tips and tricks. And I will also show you a little bit of knowledge on how to get there and so on. And that's exactly where we will begin this guide, I think, in how to get to the lake. If you've been following this channel for a while, you know now that I'm not very fond of flying. In fact, I don't fly at all because I'm so scared of it. I am trying to get over my phobias because I really do want to explore things outside of Europe as well, obviously. But at this moment, I haven't been in the air in over 30 years. So it's been a while. However, if you want to fly to Lake Garda, Bolzano or Bolzano is the closest airport, in my opinion, to the lake. Well, a little bit depending on where on the lake you are going, but also from Bolzano there is lots of train transportations, buses, services and so on to the lake. So this might be actually the best part. When I travel down to the lake, I either go by car or by train. But let's start talking about how to get to the lake by train. Well, so where you want to start from is obviously the biggest point if we're talking how to get to the lake by train. However, I would say that either way, if you come from Western Europe or from the northern part of Europe, a great way is to go to Munich. From Munich, you can find the Eurocity trains that run from Munich, I think every second hour during the summer season, down towards Rovereto or Verona. And this will be your two best bets. Depending on if you're going to the northern parts of the lake, you will get to Rovereto. And if you're going to the southern part of the lake, it might be closer to go all the way to Verona. Included in the northern part of the lake, I guess, is Riva del Garda, Limone, Malcesine, maybe down towards, I would say, Torre del Benaco. It will be the easiest way to take a bus from Rovereto. So arriving from train from Munich, Rovereto will be the best bet. From Rovereto train station, there are a lot of buses operating like at least once an hour going down to the lake. It's quite convenient, it doesn't take that long. These buses normally will take you to Riva del Garda, and then you can change in Riva Stazione for another connecting bus to your destination. And I think that if you are going, say, well, down to Torre del Bonacco, maybe to Garda, which is the main village in kind of the middle of the lake, Rovereto is the best bet. If you're going south of Garda, it might actually be a better option to take the train all the way down to Verona and take a bus from Verona towards the lake. Also, don't forget that Lake Garda actually has a train station on the most southern part in Peschiera del Garda. They operate train services from, I think, Milano towards Peschiera. However, you cannot travel directly from Munich down to Peschiera. So in this case, you have to go through Milano, and in my opinion, I would say that that's a more difficult route. It's easier to take the Eurocity train from Munich, and you will also see obviously the most stunning landscapes passing through the Alps in Austria on your journey. This is actually one of the most scenic and beautiful train rides you can possibly make in Europe, if I might be so frank to say so. So it's really worth taking that train ride all the way from Munich down towards Rovereto or Verona. The train stops at both stations, so you can make your choice when booking your train. I also want to state that some people might say or write on Facebook that Garda is like reachable only by a car, and that's not at all true. I think that it's actually quite convenient to arrive to the lake by train and bus. It's not at all very hard to figure out how to do it, and it's quite a scenic journey, as I said. So don't be afraid of visiting the lake even though you don't have a car. However, if you do have a car, I would suggest more or less the same route. You see, alongside the railroad all the way down to Rovereto, you will also find the motorway or autobahn. It goes more or less side by side with the train all the way. It's a very scenic way to drive as well, to go through the Innsbruck area and then through Brenner in Italy down towards the lake. The only thing I would recommend though is not to actually take the highway when you reach Italy, but if you have the time, choose to go on the narrow pathways up in the mountain hills. It does take a little bit longer, but it's one of the most scenic routes you can possibly make. And when we do travel by car, I think it's always worth it to travel that instead of being on the highway, which is not that fun, although it's quite scenic as well. However, if you are arriving by car to the lake, always be reminded of the fact that the traffic around the lake going lakeside is always chaotic, especially when you reach the, I would say, like the little bigger towns like Riva, Limone, Malcesine, Garda. There will be traffic stocks every time of the day, more or less, unless you're arriving in the middle of the night. And the lake is big, don't forget it. It's the biggest lake in Italy, so driving during the day, say that you live up north in Riva and you want to do a, what do you say, like an excursion down to Sirmione in the southern part, that is like a 3.5 hour drive there and a 3.5 hour drive back with the traffic included. It might say differently on Google Maps, but don't trust Google Maps in these situations. Believe me, I've been there so many times. There's always traffic jams around the lake, so have that in mind. It's very convenient to have a car, but not so convenient to travel around the lake. However, if you don't have a car, you can travel around the lake from village to village by bus. However, just like traveling by your own car, the buses are not very reliable when it comes to the timetable. Sometimes you have to wait for an hour. The buses can normally be up to an hour late and sometimes even more. So when you think the bus is, say, 15 minutes late, it might actually be the bus that was supposed to leave an hour and 15 minutes ago. So very much problems with that. However, the buses are quite convenient to travel with, quite cheap, and it is an option to go see the villages next to where you are. The northern part, mostly on the lake, are covered by mountains around the lake, which is obviously very, very scenic, especially in towns like Limone, Riva, Garda and so on. However, do notice the problem that when you are booking a hotel in these areas, make sure how far it is from the lake to the hotel, and even if it's not that far, make sure it's not too much uphill. I made this mistake, but on numerous occasions I booked hotels that I didn't realize high up in the mountains they actually were located. And I don't have a problem with that. The view is often amazing and stunning, and you will see the entire lake. But make sure that you are physically available to walk up these mountains, because the roads leading up to the hotel areas are sometimes so steep. Last time when we stayed in Verona, it was actually a 20% steepness, which was crazy. And the hill up towards where we were living in Burago, which was the name of the little charming village, took, well, I would say 15 minutes straight uphill. It killed us literally, up to a point where my friend Cecilia said that she wanted to stay up in the mountains during the evenings instead of going down for dinner, because she just couldn't handle these bloody up and down hills. They do kill you. So if you don't have a car, make sure where you stay, and make sure that you at least are physically aware of where your hotel is located. Because like us, arriving with huge bags, having to carry them up the steep hills, well, that can either make you or break you. Just saying. So one of the biggest questions that I normally get on this channel from you guys are, who is the lake for? And I can say that it's mostly for everyone except for one type of people. Lake Garda is not for partying. I repeat, do not book yourself a holiday with your mates to go party around Lake Garda. There is no party whatsoever around the lake, except for like a few local discos and clubs, but they're very small. You will have so much more fun going someplace else. But I do really think that Garda is suited for more or less everyone else, from families to elderly to couples. Well, maybe not single travelers. Lake Garda is very romantic, so being there on your own doesn't really make sense. But I mean, if you are really excited to explore the lake, why not take the opportunity and go by yourself? I mean, I did, and I met my wife. So, yeah, kind of makes sense, I guess. But that was very lucky. I wouldn't actually recommend going by yourself. It suits elderly people, it suits couples, and also it's very dog friendly. I've never actually been to a place more than Lake Garda where every restaurant basically allows you to bring in your dog. So it's very easy to travel there if you have a dog. So yeah, that's I think who the lake is for, so to speak. Well, you can bring your credit card and you can actually use it obviously when you go shopping sometimes. But however, Garda is still a cash kind of place, so bring a lot of cash. Otherwise you will have to run to the ATMs. Going into a lot of restaurants in the lake, they might have the Visa or MasterCard side on the doors, and then when you're supposed to pay, they will say that the machine is broken, blah blah blah. Have we heard this before in Italy? Well, it's just what it is. So make sure that you at least have cash. Then you can always try to pay with your credit card, but cash is more or less a must if you're traveling to the lake. Just saying, take it from me. Next week we're coming back with the second part of this guide. They're quite short, and then we will have our yearly summer holiday, because I'm going away, obviously, to shoot much more lovely content for you guys. But we will, however, all through the summer, once a week, post a lot of short guides to the cities of Europe. So there will be something new coming to you every week, and then we will be back in September. However, next week we will continue this little guide on how to reach Lake Garda in the best possible way. And next week we're going to talk more about how to choose your village and which village is actually right for you. So in the end, always remember, it is not about the destination, it is what you make of it that counts. Till next time, stay safe. Yeah.